Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today for the Trade the Bell session. I'm joined by Tim. Morning, Tim.
Good morning, everyone. Hope
All
you
right.
enjoyed your weekends.
Today's session, for those of you who joined it for the first time, is looking at what trades we've got in the market at the moment, just run through high level to have a look at technically some things that line up that are interesting. But we're also here to take questions and sort of set the scene for the week. We've got a couple of webcasts as part of the Options Game Series, Trade the Bell being the first one. Tomorrow night we've got Graham O'Brien, who's the head of derivatives for the ASX, who's going to come and join us. And we're looking at having a different guest each Tuesday evening. So that's at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. Book into that session if you haven't already. It'll be a very, very interesting session. And then on Wednesday, we'll have Trade Group as well. So I hope you can join us for all three sessions. We had a session on Friday as well, which I believe we're going to put the recording in the newsletter tomorrow. And that was just some tips on playing the ASX's options trading game for you there. So any advice contained in today's presentation is general only, doesn't take into consideration your personal circumstances, and you need to decide for yourself whether it's appropriate to you. Past returns are not an accurate indicator of future returns. Okay, so having said that, Tim, what have we got this week?
So we'll get started. First of all, we'll look at the leaderboard to see how the players have fared over the past week. So we've got Philip Crowley in first place with 156,000 portfolio value. Belinda Johnston still in second. I'm still coming in third place here. We've got Patrick Sliwa in fourth and Blake Reed currently in fifth. And we'll start by looking at some of the, looking at our strategy scanners today. There hasn't been anything flagged, but once again, if we look down at the bottom of the screen here, we can see Coles and James Hardy once again approaching a long trade. These have been flagged a few times in the past, but just not quite meeting the criteria yet at this stage. If you have any stocks that you want me to have a look at during this session, just type it into the box and send it over, and we'll look at pulling it up on the charts. But today we'll start looking at a few random stocks that I have already pulled up here ready to go. So of course we'll start with the XJO this morning. It looks like we have opened quite a bit up. We have, let's have a zoom through here. The futures were positive by about 40 points this morning. And looks like we did gap above the 6618 resistance line. So it's quite healthily on the upper side of the 50-day moving average now. With a move like this in the market, it's almost sure to shake up the leaderboard during the coming day. So keep your eyes peeled and see, maybe even see your own name up there. We'll jump over to the our next stock here. Let's have a look here. So AGL, what we can see here with AGL, it's been an interesting couple of months for AGL. So it seemed like it was trading within a range from around this late May, June period until really the beginning of August, where it just jumped down below the $19.30 mark or $19.50 mark even. And since then, it's just basically traded within this range sideways. It is now, with the 50-day moving average having fallen quite significantly over the past couple of months. It looks like the stock has now traded above the 50-day moving average, but still seems to be going quite sideways. It's having quite a bit of trouble trying to sustainably push past that $19.30 mark. Where it will go today, once it pushes through, it could even remain above that level if it does get through there. It does seem like it's testing the resistance today and still not having much luck with actually getting through there. There must be a lot of sellers lined up right at that point. So we'll have a look at the next stock. We'll get a couple of these loaded up. While we're doing that, I'll just come back to the XJO. So what we've seen over the past week, since the beginning of August, the past 2 weeks, it was trading somewhat comfortably above the 50-day moving average. It did have 2 big days of falling after the interest rate announcement and some poor data coming from the US. And then it managed to have a bit of a ride above its support level at 6,500, bounced off the 50-day moving average slightly, and then has continued its trajectory through there till today, where it is now at 6671.30. Alright, so we'll have a look at BHP here. So BHP, it looks like right now it's trading between the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average. It seems also to be right in the middle of its recent trading range. And when it's positioned right in the middle like this, it is kind of difficult to have a punt which way it's going to go. It seems like it's going to go, well, up, down or sideways, as is tradition. However, to actually try to pick exactly where it will go given these technicals, based on this chart and what we're looking at here, it is quite difficult to say. It's difficult even to guess. So this one's a bit of a mystery. We'll jump over to the next one. I believe this will be Brambles. So this has been trading quite comfortably since late August within this range, the 11.60 range and basically $11 range, 11 to 11.60. And it looks like over the last few days it's had quite a bit of buying pressure. The buyers have come in and really pushed the market up, and I managed to hold on to the price during those days. It did close a little bit above this resistance line but below the 50-day moving average on Friday, and today it's opened just below the 50-day moving average. So we'll be watching whether over the coming days it can actually push through that 50-day moving average level. Then it might start trading outside of this range. Otherwise, it looks like there is quite a bit of resistance at its current trading position at roughly the $11.56 mark. We'll jump over to the next chart now. This one should be Commonwealth Bank, I believe. Here we go. So Commonwealth Bank, it seems to be in a similar situation with BHP. It's just in the middle of its trading range. It's trading slightly above its 50-day moving average at the moment, but it is somewhat within its recent trading range as well. So it's not far from trading once again below the 50-day moving average. It's still not even that far from the 200-day moving average, and whether it will remain above that 50-day moving average is anyone's guess. It seems like there has been quite a bit of recent price activity between the 50-day and 200-day moving average, so I would not be surprised if it does jump back down to that level over the coming days. We'll have a look at the next one now. We'll jump over to, I believe this one was going to be CSL. So we can see with CSL it's been travelling along its positive trend line quite sustainably from a bit below above the what would it be, about 190 level from April until its current position at 245. So if we're looking at the recent trading range, we'd probably see a resistance level right here around the $240 mark. And it looks like over the past 2 days it has opened above that level. So it may even be in a position where it is starting to jump out of its recent trading range and continue upward. But with the significant selling pressure that we've seen initially so far in today's session, where it has opened quite high up, but has managed to pull back quite a bit, maybe it might have some selling pressure throughout the day and fall back in line to its previous trading range. Jump over to the next one now. If you have any questions about any of these charts or anything that I'm discussing, feel free to send it through. So we'll have a look here at FMG. Once again, this one, like a lot of the market, it does look like it has been trading within a trading range over the past few days or few weeks. So basically since August, it looked like it was trading below the $8 mark and for the most part above the $7 mark. Now it looks like it's trading between since September, the $8 and $9 mark. Looks like it's at the top of this trading range at the moment. However, well, it's got a couple of, it does have a bit of buying pressure over the last couple of days, so there's always the opportunity or the potential for this stock to push through that $9 mark, as it had back in the end of June and early July, or it could bounce off and come back down and start trading within that $8 to $9 range again. Once again, anyone's guess where this will go, but we can be sure it will be up, down, or sideways. Jump over to the next one. What have we got for this one? We've got S32. So this is an interesting one. It's had a very long fall since the beginning of the year, really. Let's have a look. We'll pull it out and see how far it has fallen. Yeah, basically since the beginning of the year. Since this point, it's had a downward trajectory. We saw the death cross here back in the end of May period, and has continued to sustain fall downward since then. We do have a support level here at around the $2.40 mark, and it looks like there is a bit of a hint that the stock has been rebounding from that $2.40 mark. But on its way up, if it does continue, it will have to face that 50-day moving average, and that could present an opportunity for it to either bounce off that and come back down towards the $2.40 mark, or it might be able to jump through it and start trading on the other side of the 50-day moving average. We'll jump over to the next one now. I've got a question here, is CSL a lit long? Now the thing with CSL, its price action has, it has been breaking out a little bit, but this ADX here, for it to be an actual lit long, so I've just got, alrighty, let's get rid of that. Alright, so we've got the ADX would need to be above 20 for it to be an actual lit long trade. So we can see here the ADX, it's around the 11, 12, 13 mark. What we want to see is more of a directional hint in those price movements. So while on the chart it does look like it has a nice long sustained growth trajectory, and that very well may continue, it does look like there is a lot of green in those candlesticks, so a lot of buyers coming in for this stock. However, based on the ADX itself, it just doesn't fit the criteria to be flagged as a lit long trade at this stage. You can find that down the bottom here. Okay, we'll jump back over to this one. Here we go, Santos. Another stock that looks like it's been enjoying a bit of a range and is now, well, was in the position to make a bit of a choice. I think based on what we've seen with today's price, it's definitely made that choice. It looks to have gapped up quite significantly on the open this morning. So it was trading around the $7.45 mark on Friday, and it looks like it has jumped 45 cents up to $7.90. I was looking to discuss whether it would be able to break through that $7.50 mark and whether it would be trading above that mark from for the next couple of trading days onward. And it looks like the market has well and truly made the decision that it has gapped well above the $7.50 mark, and we'll be looking for a consolidation above that mark tomorrow when the market opens as well. As for now, it looks like it is trading close to the top of its current range even, and there is potential for this to be a breakout trade if it does continue up further. We've got quite a strong ADX listed at the bottom of the page here, and it is getting quite close to those 52-week highs now. So this is one to keep an eye on for a long trade for the remainder of this week, I'd say. All right, we'll jump over to the next one. So Wesfarmers has been once again comfortably trading within its range and is starting to go back towards the top. It does have a bit of a long-term trend from the beginning of the year, an upward trend. And its price movements there, apart from the gap this morning, they're usually quite slow and steady. There isn't too much volatility in this one. And the movements have been somewhat just bouncing off its long-term upward trend, mostly above the 50-day moving average, where it once again is today. And if it gets too far away from that level, above that level, it does seem to have a habit of pulling back down and consolidating and then coming back up again. What we'd be looking at for the rest of this week is whether this section here, where my mouse is moving around, and this section here, whether this will be the new resistance for this range, or whether it will continue its diagonal upward trend. Either way, I feel that there will be some resistance, or there may be some resistance at this $40 mark either way. And jump over to the next one. This one is Woolworths. So Woolworths has had a very good run this year. Once again, has spent most of the year trading above the 50-day moving average. When it does fall below, it has had a recent habit of jumping back above, and it looks like it is reaching its a major resistance level here again at around the $38.50 mark or $38 mark. Let's have a look here. Yeah, around the $38 mark. It's got a bit of a resistance level. So it's once again bouncing off the 50-day moving average. It will have some selling pressure, or it's likely to have some selling pressure here based on its previous price information on the technicals. But if it can push through there, then we would be looking at the potential for some potentially significant price movement. However, with the ADX quite low, it could just come back down and might even start trading in a range from around the $36 mark to the $38 mark. Only time will tell with this one, but it's always a fun one to watch. We'll jump over to the next one now. So Woodside Petroleum. Woodside does like to gap from time to time. It usually gaps and then trades within a range. Sometimes these ranges can be quite large, and especially on the way down, and then slow and steady on the way up, and then a few gaps here and there. So once again, it hasn't let us down on that front. It is now trading below the 50-day moving average, which historically has been a bit of a pivot point. There's quite a bit of price action around this level, either slightly above or slightly below it. And it looks like it will start to trade within the middle range of its current trading range between $30.50 and $34, which means it could go up, it could go down. If you're looking at range trading, you'd be looking at it having more of a chance of going up when you're in this stage. When you're in the middle here, it could go either way, so you wouldn't really be fully certain on where the price direction will be from here if you're just looking at range trading and technicals. Once again, it is an interesting one. If it can break through this 50-day moving average, then it might have a gap like we have seen in the past when it does manage to push through, or some strong buying pressure from the market. All right, we'll jump over to Now, last one here, unless you guys want to send through a few stocks for me to look at. These ones were just selected by random. I'm going for most of the more liquid ones here, but these are just random selections. So interesting with Newcrest Mining, it has had a tremendous run and it has had some strong directional hints through this ADX measurement here throughout this rise, and now it is just trading within this range, or at least it has been since August, like a lot of the market has been doing. And the ADX is much, much lower. So as you can see here, there's not really much of a directional movement. It is up, but it's down. It can go up quite quickly. It can come down quite quickly. The volatility is high, but the direction is basically non-existent at the moment. So we'll be looking at Newcrest Mining starting to trade right on its support level at around the 33.80 mark, roughly around there. And if you're looking purely at range trading, you'll probably be hoping for this to come all the way back up to the top again. There might be a bit of price action around that 50-day MA on its way up. We can see when it tried to rise through this level, it didn't quite push through that 50 MA last time. Maybe you might get lucky, maybe it might gap over the coming days above there. But once again, anyone's guess, could go up, down, or sideways. This is a gold mine at the end of the day, so it can be quite random when the price movement goes in relation to the rest of the market. Okay, got one here for. There's one question here from Belinda Watson. What does more liquid mean exactly? So what that means is that there are more buyers and more sellers in the market, and that there are more market makers quoting in the options market for this underlying stock. And what that means is when you're looking to sell a position, it's much easier to find a buyer at the market price, or at the price that you want to offload your stock at. And if you're looking to buy, it's much easier to find the other side of that transaction, the seller. So when you're looking at trading more liquid options, or looking at trading the more liquid optionable stocks, you'd be looking at being able to get in at a better price and being able to get out at a better price. You won't have to discount your, you won't have to give a discount when you're selling, and you won't have to pay more when you're buying. So you get better returns on investments if you have, if you're looking at more liquid options. With the ADX indicator, what we're looking at is we're looking for it's a measure of whether there is a hint of direction in the market. So a measure, we have selected 20 as a number to determine whether there is or isn't a hint of direction. So below 20 would indicate that there isn't much directional evidence for that stock on this measurement, and above 20 would hint that there is a hint of directional movements, which is saying that the prices based on this measurement aren't just moving randomly. There is a bit of a bias. So let's have a look here with Newcrest Mining. The ADX figure here, which is what this bottom graph is looking at, it was really high when there was that strong directional movement upwards. And it's become really low as the market has just traded sideways. And if you're looking to tell, Belinda, which, back to liquidity, if you're looking to tell which stocks are liquid, you can come here into the strategy builder, and in the stock screener, this big bullseye at the top of the page, you can sort all the stocks on the top right hand side of the page here with the word liquidity. And now you'll see that each of these little cards will have a thumbs up on them, which means that they are more liquid optionable stocks. This big thumbs up right here. So it means that it has good market maker coverage, and you can get in and out of your positions much easier. We'll have a look at Macquarie Group here, MQG. might take a while for this one to load, so we'll be a bit patient. But in the meantime, we'll jump back in here and we'll have a look at what's happening in the market. So we'll have a look at some of the price changes. Where are the big movers? So by selecting price change percentage, we're looking at which stocks have been have had the largest price move. It could be up, could be down. If it's the color green, that means it's moved up. If it's the color red, that means it's moved down. There's a lot of green today, so there's been a lot of upward movements in underlying stocks. And it's quite a few in the 2% range here. BHP, Dolly Parsons, CSL, Rio as well. A lot of the resources are up. A2 Milk as well, and then Newcrest is down a bit, of course, and Macquarie. So let's have a look at Macquarie. So Macquarie has had a tremendous increase. It looks like it's had quite a strong amount of buying pressure recently. It's starting to get to the top of its more recent range around here. It'll be interesting to see if it can push through there and maybe push up to this next resistance level where it was at back in April and May, all the way up here at the towards the 140 mark. It's bounced off the 250-day moving average. It's got quite a bit of a price trend. The ADX has pulled back a little bit recently. The volatility has gone up recently, but not excessively. Yeah, it's interesting. From here, it depends on what it does at this resistance level that it's coming up to meet shortly. If you can push through that, there's potential for it to continue on. You can see here towards the end of September, it has had a lot of struggle to push through that resistance level though. We've seen a lot of price action there, and based on that alone, I would say that it's going to struggle to push through. It's had many days around that price point and just didn't really sustainably push through above it. So it'll be interesting. If it can gap that resistance level though, that would solve that problem, but it looks like even right now it's meeting its resistance there already at 130, 130. Were there any other stocks that you wanted me to have a look through? Have a look at ANZ. I'm keen to get some feedback from you guys as well. What are your views on the market for the rest of the week? Do you think we'll continue this upward trajectory, or do you think there'll be a bit of a correction or a pullback? Feel free to type it in the search box, in the message box. Alright, so we're loading ANZ. Might just come back here to the stock screener. Have a quick look at ANZ in here. So its IV rank is at 22. Let's see. ANZ. Yeah, okay. Looks like it was hinting at strong directional signal when it was coming up. It pushed through the 50-day moving average. It has come back down, and it looks like it has bounced off the 200-day and 50-day moving average and starting to come back up. So now it's back in the middle of its trading range, its recent trading range. Along here and along here. So once it's back in the middle, There is a bit of buying pressure in there. There's potential for it to continue upwards. But if you're looking to take a bit of a punt, you'd probably be taking a punt when it was back down here, and you could get the benefit of this extra price move, or maybe during Friday's session when it was above the 50-day moving average, giving a hint that it had already bounced off and was starting to come back to the top of its trading range over the next few days. When it's in the middle here, you can see last time it came to this level, it did have a bit of price action here. It did slow down its trajectory, did continue up afterwards though, but we had a similar situation here. It was around the 50-day moving average back here. However, there was a lot of price action around that, around the current price point really, the $27.75 mark and $28 mark. A lot of price action around there, so a lot of sellers and a lot of buyers at that point. Let's have a look at Afterpay. Thanks, Barry. Let's see. Afterpay is an interesting one. It's not the most liquid for optionable stocks. It is very volatile. It is interesting. Let's see. Wait for it to pull up. So we've got a question here. Believe that any decent moves will come from US-China trade talks results? Yes, I believe that there will be, positive or negative. Who knows which way, with Trump being a loose cannon and really embracing trade wars with China. Who knows whether the news will be positive or negative, but yeah, it will definitely have an effect on the markets around the world, especially over the short term. There will be a bit of price movement when any announcement comes out about US-China trade talks, as long as it is a significant announcement. Okay, so Afterpay. Let's have a look. Yeah, it looks like it broke out of its trading range from mid-April to mid-August. After it broke through its resistance level, it started trading above the $30 mark. Now, based on technicals, it looks like it's reaching a resistance level again. This resistance level is fairly strong. Afterpay does have a habit of pushing through its resistance levels, so it has been taking on an upward trajectory for quite a long period of time. It isn't the most liquid though, so you wouldn't necessarily be getting the best price for buying into options or receiving the best price for selling out of your positions with Afterpay. The ADX is quite high, hinting that there is a directional bias to this stock. The 200-day moving average and 50-day moving average are looking at an upward trajectory. So the technicals would be saying that there is a bit of positive price movement still to come. But once again, this resistance level just above its current price now, if it can push through that, that's when we'll probably see some upward price action. If it meets this level and then comes back down, it could be a slow fall back down. This fall back from April, May and June, that was a bit over a month long. Yeah, it's an interesting one. The main thing that would be stopping me from jumping into it would just be that it's not that liquid. Hard to get in, hard to get out. We'll have a look at the XJO again. Let's run through it in a little bit more detail. Got a question here from Belinda. I bought a long call option on XJO 2 days ago. It says it's still working. What that means is if you bought it 2 days ago, it would have been on a Saturday. The markets wouldn't have been open, so that order wouldn't have been received by any DTRs. And by the time it could have gone in today, it might have been outside of the ETR range, so it may not have been accepted. It may not have been accepted through the platform. Okay, so we'll have a look here again. We'll draw a few trend lines, support and resistance lines. It'll be around 6,500. A little bit higher. Around about here. And around about here. And we'll put one in here to understand the trading range. So the trading range for this index in recent times has been since early June, trading above 6,400 and trading below 6,800 basically, for the most part. And it hasn't really decided since it first fell through the 50-day moving average back at the beginning of August whether it was going to trade below or above the 50-day moving average. What we're starting to see is that there's more price action happening on the 50-day moving average than there has been in the past. So from the beginning of the year, we're looking at, let's go back a little further. So let's say from September last year till the end of last year, the price action was below the 50-day moving average. From the beginning of this year onwards, the price has been above the 50-day moving average for the most part until early August. And now it looks like it's just trading around the 50-day moving average. It's not going too far above or too far below, but there is enough range in there that you can play around with some options trades, some calls or some puts, and trade them over the short term for a bit of profit if you can pick the direction. But it looks like the 50-day moving average, while there has been quite a bit of price action around it, it has also been behaving as a bit of a pivot point as well. When it gets too far away from it, generally it will remain in that range for a week or two until it comes all the way back, maybe a bit longer, 3 weeks or so. But it has had some strong buying pressure over the last 3 days, and we'd be looking at the next major resistance point being closer to maybe the 6,750 mark. So I've got a question here. The main differences between the ASX and XJO. So the ASX is the stock code for the Australian Stock Exchange. It's not an index, and it is just the actual business of the ASX itself. The ASX is a company which is listed on the ASX. The XJO is the index for the ASX 200, and because it is an index, all the trades are settled on a cash basis. There isn't an underlying stock to own because it is an index. There is an exchange traded fund, STW, which is a which has the same components of the ASX 200 or close to, and you can trade that as an optionable ETF or an optionable stock, and you can actually trade that so that you can own the underlying on settlement as well. So it's it's similar to the index XJO, but you can actually settle it for the underlying security. It's useful if you're looking to write covered calls on your ETFs, the STW ETF. Perfect. All right, so if there isn't any more questions, might call this session to a halt. Feel free to quickly put through your last questions before we close this session. Let's have a look here. So Nupus put through a question here. Is there an index similar to the Russell Index in Australia? We do have the small ordinaries in Australia, but it's not an exchange traded optionable index. It is just a regular index that will keep track of movements in the small cap space. All right, looks like that's all the questions for today. If you do have any further questions, feel free to get in contact with us. You can send your questions through the chat box on the bottom right screen of the platform, this little messenger icon here. And they will come through to myself or Ivan, and we'll be able to get back to you. Keep note that this is a live trading desk, so sometimes if it's not 100% urgent or trade sensitive, it can take a bit of time to get back, as we do need to prioritize live trades. However, send it through and then we'll be able to have a look through your questions and come back to you with a detailed response. Good luck with the rest of the game, guys. Wish you all the best and enjoy this trading week. We'll see you tomorrow for our next webcast at 7 p.m.